Hi folks, Slices here. Now, I've got a knife here for you which, when this current batch of high-end knives arrived, I took this out and I just thought it was one of the most beautiful knives I've ever seen. It has a carbon fibre handle, and I'm not a huge fan of carbon fibre, but I can forgive this knife because in almost every other way it is very nearly perfection. It's a little bit too big to fit in my camera properly. I've tried moving the camera a bit further back, but my setup doesn't really allow for that. Basically what we have here is a Finnish Puukko style knife, only of course it's made by Cheburkov. So it's a Russian made. Now, Russia and Finland, of course, have a bit of a history. I'm no expert on their history, but I believe that Finland was for a long time part of the Russian Empire, and they fought for their independence in the Winter War in I think 1939, 38-39, and then the continuation war. So they were at each other's throats for a long time, but Finland is now an independent country, and one of the things that they're famous for is the Puukko. Now, the word Puukko simply means knife, but it's become a stylized thing. Now, this particular knife, it's in the form of a Puukko, but it's probably a bit bigger. It's got a 6-inch blade, whereas Puukko would normally have a sort of 3 to 4 inch blade. And it doesn't have a Scandi grind. It's a flat grind with a secondary bevel, but it just looks lovely. It's got those lines that you might expect. In fact, when I first saw it, I thought it might be a Melanica or something like that. I didn't realise that it was going to be a Cheburkov, but it's very nice. M390 blade, which has steel I particularly like, although I've never had it in a larger fixed blade, so it's difficult to know how well it stands up or would stand up to use and abuse. Now, this is sold as either a fully functioning working knife or as a what they call a souvenir. I'm not quite sure what's a souvenir of, but nonetheless, it is really very lovely. You've got this, I think it's a sort of like, I don't know if it's an orange peel finish or I think it's an orange peel finish on these bolsters and the end cap. You're in a traditional Finnish style. You have a sort of rat tail tang that goes up into the handle. How far it goes up into it, I don't know. It's probably not the most robust design ever produced, but I think it's very traditional for the Finnish Puukko, and they've lasted a long time, and they haven't much changed the design. Sometimes you do get peened ones, others are not. Now, the only thing is I don't have much in the way of knives to compare this to. I don't have a massive fixed blade collection, but just a couple that we could sort of bring out just to just because they're nice knives. Actually, there's no more reason than that. They don't really compare desperately well. I have the Folkniven Embla here. Now, the Emblas are really a good looking knife too, and in a way they have something in common. They're both handmade knives in a factory, which reminds me of, there's a sweet shop in the town near where I live in Bigger, and I went into this sweet shop, and the man was telling me that all the sweets were homemade in the factory up the road. bit of a contradiction. I think what he meant was handmade, but he said homemade. Anyway, these are handmade in the factory up the road in Russia, and the Fulton, even despite all the badging and so forth, is of course made in Japan. It's a much smaller knife, but it's probably designed for similar purposes. It's a sort of bushcrafty woodsman type knife rather than a hunting type knife. This though has a convex zero grind, and also the blade is fixed in with a nut in the end of the handle, and of course it's made of desert ironwood, not carbon fibre. But it's probably about the closest I've got. Now, the only genuinely proper handmade sheath knife that I have is this, and this makes a Cheburkov look common. This was made by Sandy Jack. It's a jack claw knife. I was just trying to push it by the edge there, but it was cutting into my nail, just the weight of the knife. Now, this is made by Sandy Jack. When I first showed this, I said, it's probably maybe one of 100 or something like that. And Sandy corrected me, said this is his camp knife. It's a bigger version than this Bushlaw knife. The Bushlaw is same size as the Embla, much smaller. He said no, there's probably less than 20 of these made. So it's extremely rare. It's completely genuinely handmade by a man in effectively his sort of outhouse attached to his house where he lives, and he does all the very intense heat treatments. He hardens the blade up to well into the 60s and then tempers it back to between 58 and 59 Rockwell, which he thinks is just perfect. He sharpens it. I mean, genuinely, I was just pushing my nail against the edge there just to move the knife, and I felt it cutting into the end of my nail. It's amazing knife. This is obviously it's a full tang knife, and it has slab scales on a well, actually a tapered tang. It's kind of mildly tapered, but it is tapered in 01 tool steel. The one thing about this knife that's always amazed me is not how good it is, because it's really very high quality knife made by hand, but it's I think it cost me just over £300, which is about half what the Cheburkov would cost, and this is even more handmade. Now, it doesn't have M390 steel. It's got desert ironwood instead of carbon fibre, which is probably pretty much a like for like. It doesn't have these really fancy bolsters, but there's an awful lot of work has gone into this. I would venture that Sandy's lucky to pay himself minimum wage to make these knives. They really are a labour of love. You should really put the price up. But one thing that both these have in common is that just because you might want one doesn't mean you can have one. Just because you got the money to pay for it doesn't mean you can have one. To get a jacklaw knife takes infinite patience. It took me about 3 years to get this one, and an awful lot of emailing, because he doesn't take orders. He just makes what he wants to make and then puts them up on the website, and if you want to buy one, you had better be in there within the first 10 or 15 seconds, and I'm not kidding. It has to be something as quick as that, because otherwise it'll be gone. What I discovered is, though, that if you are within that first 2 or 3 emails, he may get back to you and offer to make you a knife. And I put my chanced to buy one of his sort of standard bush saws actually, and he came back and he said, really sorry you missed out, but I'm going to make, and he told me what he was about to make. What did I fancy? And I said, well, I fancied the camp knife because it's a little bit bigger and I've got bigger hands, and you can see here that it's quite a bit bigger than, say, the Embla, which suits me very much. So it's not about the other thing I should sort of say is, obviously being a fixed blade knife, these things come with a sheath. Now the Cheburkov sheath is good. It's made in Russia, I believe. I'm sure I saw on it. I'm sure there's something about made in Russia. Anyway, I believe it's made in Russia, though I could be completely wrong. And obviously it's got the Cheburkov logo on it. It's of good but not exceptional quality. I would say it is of similar quality to the Falkneven. Falkneven is a bit more battered because it's been used a little bit, although I don't actually use this sheath. These two both suffer from a similar problem in that if you get the knife in there tight, it's hard to get it out again. But the other problem I have is that I'm left-handed, so when Sandy made me my knife, I said, can you do a left-handed sheath? And he said, of course I can, because of course he's making these things entirely himself in his house. These are actually made in the house rather than in the garage, rather than in the outhouse. Again, it's got a nice logo on it, Jacklaw logo. The stitching on this is superb, and he wet forms the thing for you so that when it arrives, it's beautifully fitted into the into the sheath, or nice fitted. The sheath fitted onto the knife. Also comes with a nice brass dangler loop and a removable dangler, which you can put on without taking your belt off. And that may not seem like a huge thing, but wait till you're left-handed, because the buckle is on the left-hand side. So in order to put your knife on, you would normally have to pull the belt out all the way around, slip it through the dangler, and then thread the belt all the way back through again. If you're right-handed, you've really perhaps only got to take it out maybe one belt loop and do it up again. With this, you can just undo the studs, clip it onto your belt, and you're away. Now I put the studs towards my body because otherwise it's quite easy to catch the bottom of the of this as you're drawing the knife and undo the studs. So I put it on the body side so that the side that's facing the knife doesn't have that problem. So yeah, that's a good quality sheath. This is a good quality sheath, but I wouldn't say it was exceptional. I mean, double stitched. It's got some rivets in it. I don't really like the way they've done the belt loop. It does have a belt loop, which Falkneven doesn't. Falkneven just is dangler on nothing. With these sheaths, you can put a belt through them if you want them to ride higher on your waist, or you can use the dangler. If you're not using the dangler, I don't want to force it because it's not my knife, but you can just pull the dangler down in the same way as this and just use the belt loop at the top. Obviously you'd take the leather off this one if you were doing that. This one you can't take the leather off, but you could pull this down to the bottom of the belt loop and use the loop as a conventional belt loop. So I think that's probably enough said about this knife. The thing that really got me with it is it's just such an elegant thing. You know, you could pick fault in There's no guard to stop your hand slipping onto the handle, but this barrel is the traditional shape that your hand locks around and it shouldn't slide up. It's carbon fibre and not my favourite material, but it's so well done. And these bolsters are really, really nice. You could say it's rat tang, and it's perhaps probably only just glued into the handle. They're epoxied in, but epoxies are pretty strong these days. And I can forgive all of its potential areas that you could criticise and just simply say it's just such an elegant knife. If it was mine, I'd have to use it, but I can just see myself just marring it all up and regretting it straight away, as I've done with most knives. I've never actually used a jackclaw. There's no particular reason for that, but I got it, and I used it to cut a few things around the house just to see what it was like to hold and to wear and so on. But I just haven't had the opportunity, particularly this last year and a bit. I've just not been out of the house, so I couldn't try it out on anything. But I'm quite keen to do so, and I will do eventually. So anyway, there we are. Said enough. Said more than enough, probably, for most of you. You're probably wishing I'd go away. But anyway, if you like the stuff, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see some more, please subscribe, and remember to ring the notification bell. Thank you very much.